Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to check out another of these brand new Wild Pack figures as we have a very interesting looking green Velociraptor. Almost kind of a Charlie-like Velociraptor, but at the same time not really. The tone of green on this one is a bit lighter, I think, than Charlie. I actually really like this. This is the first time I've really set it up here and taken a good look at it, and the more I look at it, the more I really do enjoy the coloration of this particular version. It's a very appealing looking Velociraptor, and that's really quite impressive that they can pull out a new paint scheme, which isn't really all that new and crazy looking, but something that they can pull out that does pretty nice to me and has me kind of drawn to it. Considering the amount of Velociraptors Mattel has released at this point, I should be severely uninterested in this figure, especially this sculpt. This sculpt has been used so many times now. But it is yet another really nice looking version of the Velociraptor. Kudos to Mattel for somehow always finding ways to create really nice looking paint jobs for their figures. And again, this is a really nice looking version of the Velociraptor. As far as the packaging goes, it's pretty much your standard. However, this time it does have the Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous logo on it. The last two, with the Rhamphorhynchus and the Shringosaurus, I believe were only Jurassic World, but we're now back to the Camp Cretaceous with this particular raptor. On the back here, you can see more of the different versions of Wild Packs that are out currently with this wave, as we have the Rhamphorhynchus and Shringosaurus, which we have already reviewed, and then the Mononychus as well as the Velociraptor we are about to take a look at. So let's pop it out of its box and do just that. And here is our Velociraptor, and look at how nice that looks. That is a really appealing looking Velociraptor from Mattel. The entire face actually has kind of a glossy look all along the eye socket area leading up into the palate, and it's super appealing to the eye. That's something that I used to really dislike, would be any type of a gloss coat on dinosaurs, but as time goes on, I'm definitely warming up to it, and I like how Mattel uses the kind of glossy application of the paint at times to highlight the face. I think they do a great job of actually doing that, and this raptor is a pretty good example of that. I also like the fact that we have some paint out onto the tail here with an extra coloration of those stripes. It would have looked so much nicer if it went the entire way out onto the tail, but even what we have there definitely looks really good. So let's go ahead, jump straight to a closer look at this right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Velociraptor, again you can see what I was talking about with that really nice glossy look to the face, which somehow looks natural but really highlights the face in a beautiful way. The eye is painted with an orange. I think they've painted all of the eyes in this entire wave so far with variations of orange, and yet again it looks really good on this raptor. Nice slit-like pupil for the eye, but that orange eye really highlights there on the face when it comes to the darker coloration around it. It just really pops. And then around the eye and leading up into the palate, we have this really nice darker coloration, and again that glossy look to it, which just looks so cool. We also have that light coloration there for the lower jaw, kind of an off-white, and similar to a lot of figures that Mattel have been releasing lately, we have that kind of coloration there, that lower jaw coloration lead down into the neck, although it is a slightly different shade up there on the lower jaw. It almost looks like a very light green, but then transitions to kind of more of a white in the throat region, but it of course tapers off right in the chest region. I wish they would actually go the entire way underneath the figure, but they always seem to be, at least lately, tapering that coloration off in the throat leading down into the chest. But we also do have an articulated jaw as per usual, which works quite nicely. We have some pretty nicely painted teeth with an off-white bordering on a yellow. I love that Mattel always gives their coloration of the teeth a little bit more realistic of a look, as opposed to just using really bright pearly whites. We always have more of a realistic off-white or a yellowish tone. We also have a nice pink coloration in there for the tongue, as well as the kind of skin flaps there on the side of the mouth. It also does sport a really nice gloss coat in there. This eye as well is actually painted and placed really quite nicely, which is a plus, because oftentimes, more often than not, it seems, we get sloppy painted eyes on the side that's usually on the inside of the packaging. The outside always seems to look good to trick you into buying it. I don't know why that happens, but up here on the top of the head, you can see some of the speckles that Mattel likes to include. We saw a lot of those on the recent Rhamphorhynchus. We could see those on this raptor as well, which I love. And you can start to see that very dark coloration. Looks like a brownish color, or a very odd mixture of brown and green. I'm not too sure exactly. I'm thinking more of a dark brown, but you start to see it striped there in the center of the head. As it reaches into the back of the neck, it really becomes abundant, and you can see it kind of is like a big splotchy area of it there before striping back down here along the course of the neck. And that continues to look that way in the entire course of the back here. You can see those really nice brown stripes are all over the place, and they run actually pretty far down here into the side of the raptor, which is very nice to see. And that continues to run all the way out onto the tail until we get about halfway out onto the tail, and then it just stops dead, unfortunately. Like I had stated before, I really would have liked to have seen it run the entire course of the tail. We do have some more of those speckles out here, which is a plus, but the striping would have looked way nicer. But as you move back throughout the course of the body, you continue to see all of those speckles and everything throughout the raptor, honestly, everywhere. We do not have painted nails on the hands or the feet at this point. I honestly don't even know if it's worth mentioning that anymore. In fact, I think it's only worth mentioning it when we do have painted nails, because Mattel really hates to paint the nails of their figures. The underside does not have any alternate coloration aside from in the throat region. Other than that, it's just the greenish color that we see elsewhere. We do have the Jurassic Facts app code right there if you would like to add it to your collection, but you can see the speckles are still pretty abundant down here, even on the undersides of the feet. And I'm not sure why, but this one really seems to have a nice turn in the neck. Like, I don't know if that's new or if this raptor has always had that turn in the neck, but it just seems so much more noticeable on this one. Like, it has a left-leaning turn. I'm going to have to pull one of my other raptors out with this sculpt and take a look at it to see if that turn in the neck was something that was on those as well, and I don't know if I just never noticed it or what, but somehow this one just looks, a lot more noticeable as far as the turn in the neck goes. But you can see the coloration looks absolutely awesome on this side as well. Again, a very nice looking Velociraptor from Mattel, and at this point I almost was thinking that there was no reason to ever buy any more Mattel Raptors, even though I of course will, because that's just the way I am, kind of a big idiot. But this one definitely is worth picking up. I can say that with complete confidence. It is a beautiful looking paint scheme on this Raptor. Again, it's nothing intricate, nothing crazy. It's just a very nice, simple coloration for the Raptor, but they've done such a good job of choosing tones of color that play off of each other really nicely and then applying it very nicely to the Raptor that I can't help but absolutely love this Velociraptor. And then as far as the articulation goes on our Raptor, again, like I had stated, we have the jaw articulation. We have some very nice articulation in the arms. We have articulation in the legs as well. None of them really come out away from the body or anything like that. I don't know if we have a swivel tail. No, we don't. I don't know if they're ever going to update that so that we get the swivel in the tail. We also don't have any kind of neck articulation or anything. So as far as like wild pack figures go, this one's got like the bare minimum as far as articulation, but at least it does still have some. For a size, for a length, you are looking at about the 6.5-inch range, or right around 16.5 centimeters. And then for a height, I will knock the Raptor over so we can't see, but you are looking at just shy of 4.25 inches, or around 10.5, closing in on 11 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line in comparison to our Velociraptor, our brand new 2021 Wild Pack version, and you can definitely see that it sports the exact same size as all of the previous Raptors in this sculpt, no difference whatsoever. So by now, this far into the Mattel Jurassic World line, I'd like to think you've probably seen some of their Velociraptors, so you'll already know the size. So this brand new Wild Pack version of the Velociraptor is another really nice release on the part of Mattel. Now, of course, being that it's just a Velociraptor again, it's just a repainted Raptor, no less, not even a new sculpt or anything, which I don't know that we'll ever get a different version of the Velociraptor sculpt-wise, but being that it is just a repaint, of course it's not a must-have. It's not like it's a new species entering the collection or anything to go super insanely crazy over. But it is a very appealing looking Velociraptor, and I must say I am beyond happy to actually have it. And if you can spot this and find one in store, it's definitely worth picking up. Even if you have a ton of other Mattel Raptors like I do, it's still a really nice version and probably one of my favorite Mattel Velociraptors so far. And again, it's really impressive to say that because the coloration isn't anything that's out of this world. It's just so visually appealing to me. Like, it makes a great kind of jungle type version of a Velociraptor. and the coloration that's applied just looks so good, and the way it plays off of each other just looks so good between the two different tones of color. Again, we don't really have that much coloration to the raptor. We just have a slight off-white kind of a color leading down from the lower jaw into the throat, and then we have green and then the darker coloration, kind of like a very dark green or a dark brown. And that's really about it color-wise. Like, of course, as per usual, we don't have any nail paint. We do have painted teeth, tongue, and eyes, so I guess there's a little color variation there. But as far as the actual body goes, there's just really not much to it. But it still manages to look super nice, and again, a really, really cool looking version of a Mattel Raptor. We do have these speckles all over the place like we've had pretty much throughout the entire wave of wild packs, but that's not enough coloration to really make it look, spectacular, but that does help. I really wish we would have had a little more paint out onto the tail and, of course, nail paint, but at this point, I just don't think that's going to happen. Every once in a while, there's like a freak situation where we do get a little paint out onto the tail, and I love that, but this one, even without the paint all the way out onto the tail, does still look really quite nice. Of course, it sports some articulation, but as far as Mattel figures go, it's probably like the bare bones amount of articulation that you would get. So even though it's not the greatest figure itself, it is still a really nice looking version of a Mattel Raptor, and I definitely can say worth picking up. So if you are interested in this, make sure you head to your local Walmart or Target. Hopefully you'll be able to find one there, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.